Okay, number 21. What are practical ways we can sow seeds of peace during our life? Well, I mean, I learned some of that through the School of Hard Knocks, but I'm going to use Moses as an example of walking in, getting a word from God and walking in the word that God gave him. And God continually kept sending him to Pharaoh and had to continually to get out of his comfort zone and say the things that he didn't know how to say or move in ways he didn't know how to do, and lead a group of people that were rebellious and self-centered and self-seeking and he had to do all of that. In order to do that, even when he got to the point where they got delivered from Pharaoh and they went across the wilderness, and they get to the sea, and then the army is upon them and about to devour them, and the people are, yelling, did you just bring us out here to die? Or, where's God now? And, it's like sometimes it's just the journey is full of so many surprises, and the experience of life is you have the word of the Lord and you act on the word of the Lord, and you maybe think sometimes it's going to turn out one way and it turns out a completely different way than the way you thought that it was going to. But God is, his mercies are new every day, and his love and his grace and his compassion are above and beyond anything that we could ever think or imagine. And so when we're looking at seeds of peace and how to sow those seeds of peace in life, it's when you're standing there like Pharaoh with your back against the wall and you're just looking up to the Father and trusting him in the midnight hour where there seems to be where there seems to be no way. God always makes a way. And in the midst of that, when God opened up that sea and they walked across dry land, and God devoured the enemy, killed them all, and they got to the other side, and Miriam's dancing with a tambourine and the women are praising the Lord, and we went from people yelling, what did you just bring us out here to kill us, to let God has delivered us. When you get to that point, when you realize that God's delivered you and he's done it before and he'll do it again, there's peace in that. There's peace in knowing that the Father's with you and that he's leading and guiding and directing you and taking care of you. And when you're in the midnight hour and your back's against the wall and you think you don't know what's going to happen next, and you just look to the Father, therein lies your salvation. And in that moment, when God delivers you, you just get this peace that surpasses understanding, that when you don't know why you were there, you don't know why you had to be against the sea, you don't know why the enemy was chasing you, you don't know why, it looked like everybody was murmuring and complaining and it looked like everybody was about to die. You don't know why all those things was happening. But yet you trusted God and you just stood when you didn't know how to stand, and you just did what God told you to do. Even though it didn't make sense or you were afraid to do it, you just did it anyway. And in that midnight hour, God showed up in the midnight hour. When God shows up for you in the midnight hour, there's a steadfastness that gets deep down inside of your soul. And there's a knowing that he's with you and that you have a covenant with an everlasting God that's never going to leave you and never going to forsake you, and he will be with you always. And regardless of what the devil does or the enemy does or bitter envy people do, none of that matters. When there's a place in God, there's a peace in God. In that midnight hour, when your back's against the wall, when you're just standing there trusting the Lord, there's a peace in there. And once you tap into his presence and that peace and that steadfastness, man, he does it over and over and over and over and over. and you know him, and you know that he delivered you, and you know that he'll deliver you again, and that there's no better place to be than in that place.